video about while loops.
So, why might we want to use a while loop? Well, we'd use a while loop for a certain block of code we want to run more than once.
So to construct a while loop, we need a couple of bits of information. We need to know when that loop should happen and what should happen during the loop.
So to show that we're using a while loop, we need this very self-explanatory statement, while. Beautiful.
It's followed by some parentheses which will contain a Boolean expression or your condition. It's called your condition because only while that condition is true is this loop going to happen.
After the condition, we just need some brackets, and whatever is inside this block is what will happen when the while loop runs.
So a while loop will happen one time when whatever's in here is true, and then once it gets to the end, we'll go back up and check that condition again. If that condition is still true, you'll keep going through, and you'll keep looping through your while loop until this condition is false. Once it's false, you just move on to whatever's beneath this last bracket, keep going with your program.
So the more eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted a potential error with this, that unless whatever is inside here could potentially be false, the while loop will just keep going, and end up killing Chrome. Now, because we don't want to kill Chrome, because then you have to close all your 60 bajillion tabs if you're anything like me, we need to make sure that there is some way that whatever condition is inside of here can be false by the end of this loop.
That loop that keeps going forever is called an infinite loop. And it makes me infinitely sad, so don't make those.
Yeah, it's a very easy mistake to make, but one with a very easy fix. So there are some different kinds of conditions and something we call a counter, which you can have inside these parentheses.
So let's make a while loop that uses a counter. Say we have a number variable called I, and we need this to be a Boolean expression, so let's have this loop run whenever I is greater than 0. Because there's this greater than symbol, this is a Boolean expression, so all of this will evaluate to either be true or false depending on the value of I.
Now, because we don't want this loop to run forever, because we're actually quite fond of Chrome, at the end of this, we'll want to put some condition that will decrease I, so at some point in the running of the loop, I will be either equal to or less than 0.
That will make this condition false, and so then your loop will end, and it won't go on infinitely.
So let's imagine that above this while loop, we've set I to be 5. So at the end of the while loop, we then have to say that I equals I minus 1. So at some point in our code, I will be either equal to or less than 0, and the while loop will finish.
In between, you can do whatever you want. Whatever you want to happen multiple times goes in the body of your while loop. So say we were concatenating bits of things onto a bigger string, or we were adding numbers into an array, which you'll eventually get to, or printing something out multiple times. Whatever you want to do multiple times goes in the body of your while loop, and then it will happen as many times as your while loop will loop through, and that depends on the condition.
But say we have some sort of condition where we actually don't know how many times we want the loop to run. We just know we want it to keep running until something is false. We can put just a Boolean, either a variable or a whole statement, inside this while condition, and it will keep running until the while loop evaluates to false.
So in this example, we have a Boolean variable called raining, and it's set to be true. So we can actually say, while raining, then your while loop will run. At some point in here, there needs to be some sort of conditional logic that could turn the value of raining from true to false. It doesn't have to always do that, but there needs to be some way that raining could turn into false during this while loop. Otherwise, we have an infinite loop since this condition will always be true.
So whenever we use Booleans in our while loops, usually we have to bring back our old friend, the if statement. So at the end, we might check, if there are no clouds in the sky, then raining is false, and this while loop will finish.
Now you may have noticed that our Boolean condition up here isn't the same as a Boolean expression because there's no logical operator involved. We're not saying it's less than or exactly equal to something. But using a Boolean variable does the exact same thing. When we're comparing two things together, we get either true or false at the end, and a Boolean variable is already either true or false, so we can still use it as our condition. Well, I'm infinitely grateful to you for watching this video.
Oh my gosh, no.